So, WrestleMania 39 Night 1 is in the books. We started the show with and still, hashtag and still, and ended the show with hashtag and new.
You're listening to the Awcast.
Everything else in between. And it was honestly, before I get into all of this, it was a really good show, really packed, solid show with a lot of great matches. And I'm going to talk about them. If you are new to this channel, this is Aftershock Wrestling Entertainment. This is the Awcast. I'm your host, Brant Fowler, and I'm back after a lengthy hiatus, longer than I anticipated. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. So, WrestleMania, there's no comparison for WrestleMania for us wrestling fans. It's our Super Bowl, our World Series, our playoffs, our World Cup, all combined into one great spectacle that is just a lot of fun, and now more fun than ever with these 2-night shows, and then you throw in NXT and all the other stuff around it, the Hall of Fame, and so on and so forth. So, full disclosure, I did not watch the Hall of Fame. I never watched the Hall of Fame. If I hear a really good speech happened, I'll go look that up. I don't watch any kind of like award shows or anything like that. I find them boring and tedious, so I just kind of avoid them. And I have not had a chance to watch NXT Stand and Deliver yet, but I am caught up on Raw and SmackDown. Watched all those storylines build into WrestleMania, and so I am well prepared to talk about WrestleMania. Before we get into the meat of WrestleMania Night 1, I did want to address, for those that may have been listeners or viewers of the Awcast previously, the hiatus. So you might notice, if you look at my YouTube channel, that the podcast feed, that the last episode was Survivor Series, and some interesting things happened. So real quick, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I do want to talk about it. Just to address that before we get into the meat of the episode. And so last year, I did the Survivor Series episode. I was really excited, super excited about Survivor Series. It was War Games, and it was a really good show as well. And I talked all about that. And for whatever reason, that episode did a lot more views than any other video on the channel. And not like a huge amount. It was a few hundred, but it's a newer channel, not a whole lot of content, not super consistent here and there. So it just did really well. And usually when that happens, I'll put my foot to the pedal and I'll try to figure out what attributed to that success, and I'll try to replicate it and try to figure out, a way to move forward and do that over and over again. Right. That's like the path to success. That's what people do. Right. So that's what I try to do with this one, though. I'd had some personal stuff going on, and it was getting into the holidays, and it honestly, it had a weird effect on me. It gave me mixed emotions. Like, I was happy people clicked it, but then, there's that doubt that creeps in, and I'm like, well, they probably just clicked it because they thought it was the actual pay-per-view and they could watch it, right? So, so that was my initial thought, and I was like, but at the same time, like, I had not been, and I talked about this on the podcast, I had not been super happy with the direction of the podcast. So this is the third time that I've tried to do a wrestling podcast. The first time I did a show with a co-host, a friend of mine, Chris, called 123 Podcast, and it was mainly covering Raw and SmackDown at the time, and it became like this weekly recap show, and ultimately it fizzled out. We both got bored with it, ended it. We were doing other stuff we cared about more, and we let it go. Then we brought this back, the first version of this show, which was solely focused on AEW at the time. It was called AEW Aftershock, and we brought that in, and we did that for a while, and then the pandemic hit, and Chris kind of fell off of wrestling. He stopped watching it altogether. We decided to take a break until this, it went away. And of course, it didn't go away for a very long time. So, um, anyway, a lot of things happened. We had other stuff going on in our lives as well. So the show took a really long hiatus. And then I ultimately brought it back as the All Cast, covering WWE and AEW. And I was doing that for a while, but what happened is what happened every single time I tried to do a wrestling podcast, which is eventually it devolved into a recap show. And then it was like, I can't keep up with these shows. I can't watch Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage every single week on time enough to do, these shows. And so I decided I'm going to scale back and just do pay-per-views. And I tried to do the pay-per-views, and they became a recap. And then I was bored, and I was frustrated. And if I'm bored and I'm frustrated, then you're going to be bored and frustrated watching me. And then the Survivor Series episode happened, and it got so many more views than the other videos. And like I said, it hit me with mixed emotions because I wasn't thrilled with the direction of the show, but I was really happy that it resonated for some reason. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take a beat and figure this out. And it was the holidays, obviously Survivor Series is around Thanksgiving. So the holidays were coming. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take some time off till the beginning of the year. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to take some time off until the Royal Rumble. That's my favorite pay-per-view of all time. I'll come back with the Royal Rumble. So I figured stuff out. Like in January, after the holidays and everything, I came up with this game plan, what I want to do. And I'll talk about that more going forward, not in this episode, but going forward. I have like this whole plan and this whole vision for this channel and for the content that I provide for the podcast and everything. But then the Royal Rumble came, and I was like, do I want to do a preview show? No, I'll wait until the Royal Rumble happens. Then I'll do a proper recap. So I watched the Royal Rumble, really enjoyed it. Afterwards, I didn't feel like doing a podcast. And so it was like Sunday night, and I'm like, well, the Raw after is tomorrow. I'll just wait till after that. Time passed. So around Elimination Chamber, I finally decided to record an episode. And I recorded an episode. And I decided I'm going to approach this differently. I'm just going to talk. And it's not going to be a recap. And so I did. I recorded for about 30 minutes, and I recorded this great content explaining my whole thought process. It was really relaxed. I felt good. I loved the conversation. Then I made the mistake of adding another 30 minutes about Elimination Chamber at the end of it, and it became a recap. And I was like, I don't like this. This is not what I want to do. And I wrestled, no pun intended, with whether to post it or not. And so eventually enough time passed to where it made no sense to post it. So that episode is just going to be this lost episode that never happened. And this is going to be its replacement. So then it was like, okay, I'll wait till WrestleMania. And maybe I'll do a prediction video. And then it was like, I was really busy this week leading up to WrestleMania. And so then I finally sat down and watched WrestleMania, and I'm like scrambling. I was so busy. I was scrambling around the house for the first like 2 or 3 matches of WrestleMania. And I had to go back and rewatch parts of those. And then I was like, okay, am I going to do just one overall? Am I going to do one for night 1 and night 2? And then I started second guessing that too. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just wait till after the Monday Night Raw and do a whole thing. But then, that's technically like WrestleMania is the season ender. Raw is the season beginner. And it's like, I could start a new season of this podcast and start it with Raw. And it got so convoluted that I just stopped talking to myself, stopped thinking about it. And I sat down and I hit record, and here I am talking about this. So I still don't know how I'm going to approach like seasons or whatever I'm going to do, but I decided I'm going to sit down. I'm going to record this episode talking about night 1 of WrestleMania, talking about this whole process and my frustrations and all of that. And if I like it, if I like the way it turns out, you'll be listening to this. You'll be seeing this. And if not, then it's another lost episode. What do I got to lose? I've got a little time to kill before I have to do my next thing for the night. So yeah, I figured I would just sit down and do this. So here we are. This is post WrestleMania 39, night one. It's almost 2 a.m. and I did watch the press conference, and I watched all of WrestleMania night one, and I've got some thoughts, and I'm going to share them. It's not going to be a recap. I may not even talk about every match, or at least definitely not in detail every match or every segment or anything like that. But I'm going to tell you what I liked, if there was anything I didn't like, if there was anything I thought might go different, whatever. And we'll try it this way. We'll be conversational. We'll have fun. We'll be relaxed. We'll talk about it. We'll see what happens and see if you like this format or not. And we'll go from there. How about that? So let's get into WrestleMania 39. So I started off the episode with saying the show started with and still and ended with and new. So the first match on the card was Austin Theory defending the United States Championship against John Cena. Before I get into that match, though, I want to say Becky G came out. I'm a fan of Becky G's. I like her. I thought she did a fine job on America the Beautiful. I was looking forward to her performance. I don't remember who's doing Sunday night. I remember not being excited for that one, though. But I know Becky G, and I've known her music for a long time. So I was happy with that. Anyway, just wanted to throw out a little shout out and all that. And I did watch like that. There was a segment, I guess they did on WWE.com or something, or on social media, where Zelina Vega made her an honorary member of the Latino World Order, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, Austin Theory and John Cena, the comparisons will never end. I'm going to tell you something. So I know this whole thing is like, they don't believe in Austin Theory, this and that. And, he was kind of a joke in NXT. The first time that I ever saw Austin Theory wrestle was, I believe it was Evolve, like WWE Network, before they switched over to Peacock, had this Evolve show, this collaboration thing that they did. And they had, I remember Drew Gulak and Matt Riddle teamed up and they were on it. And Austin Theory wrestled a match. And I saw this guy, I heard this guy talk. I saw the way he looked. I saw his confidence. I saw him wrestle. And I kid you not, I honestly sat there looking at my screen and said, this kid is a star. This kid's going to do big things. He really could be the next big thing. I know that's kind of what he was saying. It was a lot of hype, but I believed it. I believed every single word of it. I was a supporter of his from that day forward. And so when he came to NXT, I was like, okay, this kid's going to do something. And then he just didn't connect with NXT fans for whatever reason. And then he did the whole Gargano way family thing, and it was kind of a dumb, goofy character. And it was fine and it was fun, but obviously that wasn't going to get him where he wanted to go, right? And so then he came on the main roster, and it's like, what are they going to do with him? And he kind of took the ball and ran with it. And whether you love him, you hate him, you feel indifferent about him, I don't know. But obviously, whatever he's done has worked. It got him on WrestleMania, got him fighting John Cena, and got him beating John Cena on the grandest stages of them all to retain his United States Championship. And I think he's a solid performer. You're always going to get those comparisons. Somebody's going to see some jacked up dude that spears people and power bombs people and compare him to Batista. You see some dude wearing black trunks and just doing really fast power moves. You can compare him to Goldberg. It's just, there's always going to be those comparisons. The guy is super buff. He's got a similar build, similar look to John Cena. There's going to be the comparisons. He's got a similar swagger to the way John Cena was at the beginning when he was a heel character carrying around the chain and all that stuff. So I get it. the comparisons are going to happen. But that doesn't take away from the skill set that Austin Theory has. And I think there is something special about Austin Theory. And obviously WWE sees that too. And I think John Cena saw it too because he put him over ultimately. Yeah, he had to cheat to win. Who cares? He won. He's got a win over John Cena at WrestleMania. Hopefully he does more with that than The Miz did. And he doesn't end up hosting WrestleMania in 10 years. Well, maybe in 10 years, but let's not have him hosting like 4. Yeah, so I think Austin Theory is a star. I've always thought Austin Theory was a star ever since I first saw him. And I'm happy that he went over. If he had lost here, I think that would be it. It'd be like, nobody's going to believe in him now. That's it. He needed to go over. He went over. He's still your United States champion. John Cena was John Cena. If you've seen a John Cena match, you've seen this match. But Austin Theory did what he needed to do, and it was good. It was fine. Probably the least exciting match on the entire card, but it was still a good match. It wasn't bad. He starts off by biting Cena's ear. He's Mike Tyson and to John Cena's Holyfield. It was just like, okay. And later on, he bit his hand too, and he was just pulling out all the tricks, typical dirty heel tricks, right? Which was good. It was great for Austin Theory. So I got no hate for that, and it was a good match. So I'm trying to. I don't remember the order of matches, and I don't really want to go down that road either. So I'm just going to kind of jump around, talk about different stuff. I think the next match actually was the tag team turmoil. I do want to point out a couple of things. 2 things specifically involving Braun Strowman and other people in that match in particular. And you know this if you watched it. There were 2 spots on Braun Strowman that made 2 other guys look really good. And the first one was Chad Gable, who is so freaking underrated. Chad Gable, again, he's another guy from NXT that it took him a while to find his groove, but once he did, he was on top of the world. And I don't know why. What was it? Was it American Alpha or American, whatever they were called? Him and Jordan, their tag team, whatever they were called. That whole build up to them becoming a team, and then when they were a team, they were so good together. I don't know why WWE decided to break them up and pull out Jordan to do the Angle sketch. They could have been the next version of Team Angle or whatever. Yeah, there's comparisons there and everything, but they were such a good tag team. And unfortunately for Chad Gable, because of that, he became just another workhorse that went out there to make everybody else look good. But tonight, he looked good because he did his rolling German suplex on Braun freaking Strowman. I mean, the strength and balance and skill that it takes for a man the size of Chad Gable. And yes, I know he's got skill and I know he's got strength, but he's a small man. And compared to a very large man in Braun Strowman, to pick him up like that and not drop him on his neck and do serious damage takes a lot of talent. And Chad Gable showed what he's made of here. And I really hope people are taking notice of Chad Gable because there's something special about Chad Gable, and he's unlocked some of it with Alpha Academy, but there's more to him than that. And I would really like to see something done with Chad Gable beyond just like comical stuff, because I think he has the potential to be something great. He just, I don't know. It just hasn't clicked for him yet, right? So the other moment was Angelo Dawkins checking, that's a term in hockey, I believe, but like shoulder blocking Braun Strowman, knocking him on his back. Now, granted, not quite as impressive as a rolling German suplex, and Dawkins is not a small man, but definitely not as big as Braun. But when Braun came around that corner and he just threw out that shoulder and just like knocked him flat on his butt, it was like, okay, I see you. I see you, Dawkins. there's been a lot of talk about Montez Ford being a breakout star. The whole cliche of Dawkins being the Genetti of the team. And I think Dawkins has worked really hard over the past few months, getting his self in better shape, better condition, mixing up his repertoire, doing different moves, showing different skill sets, really putting in the work and really showing that he's no backup dancer to Montez Ford. They're both stars, and they both have bright futures. And he continues to show that week to week, and this was no different. It was a great highlight for him. So I did want to point out those two highlights. So let's shift gears to celebrities. We had some celebrities in the house. We had celebrity involvement in 4 matches, I believe. The least of which was like leading up to the final matches of the night. We had Miz, who's hosting WrestleMania alongside Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg kind of gets Miz into a match, right? He kind of makes the match with a surprise entry, and I kind of had a feeling that Pat McAfee would show up, but Pat McAfee comes out and they have an impromptu match at Snoop Dogg's behest. And of course, Pat McAfee wins with a punt and makes the host of WrestleMania look a little foolish, which is kind of Miz's shtick nowadays, right? So unfortunate for the Miz, who is also underrated as far as a in-ring performer. I think he's really good. He plays this character too well. So sometimes when you play a character too well, you get stuck in that character, right? So, and then we had, actually in that same match, you had, I don't remember his name because I'm not a football fan, but the San Francisco 49er player got involved with a clothesline on Miz and kind of helping Pat McAfee, and they had like a little celebration stuff. So you had that. You had Bad Bunny in the Rey Mysterio match, which I will talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And then you had, what was the other one? Oh, the Logan Paul match, of course. Logan Paul being a celebrity. This build up since the Royal Rumble for him and Seth Rollins. And I talked about this last time Logan Paul wrestled. I'm not a fan of Logan Paul. I don't like his content, but I will give anyone props that puts the work in and gets in that ring and respects the business enough to look good and perform well and be safe and put on a show. And to his credit, he really did that. He's done that in every single match he's had. The build up to this match was entertaining, was great. Getting the best of Seth Rollins every single time only made it more exciting to see Seth get the win here. And he's, for whatever you think about him, the man is athletic and the man commits, and he is, as Triple H says, better than he has any right to be. He's so good, so solid in that ring, and entertaining to watch. Honestly, he just gets it. Some people just get it. They pick it up and they get it. And it's like Triple H said, they go in there and they put in the work because they're passionate about it. They don't want to look stupid. They want to do a good job. They want to respect it. And, he referenced Bad Bunny. You've seen others come in. And if you're already an athlete and you already have that aptitude going for you, and Logan Paul, he does the job really well. Okay, all aspects of it, quite honestly. So some Shawn Michaels homages here. I know I saw some tweets comparing Seth Rollins' gear to Jeff Jarrett, and it was very Jeff Jarrett like with the straps, but it was also reminiscent of Shawn Michaels, who used to wear this strap thing, very similar to that. and Logan Paul came in on a zip line, which was also a very Shawn Michaels thing. So a lot of influence there from HBK going on, and so that was interesting to watch. And this was a really good match, a really great back and forth. Seth had an interesting outfit. looked like a piece of candy. His whole robe was like this cellophane looking thing, and then he had like this big bulky belt and knee pad stuff going on. It was an interesting outfit, to say the least. And I don't know who the other celebrity was with Logan Paul. He's another YouTuber, another big popular YouTuber. I'm not big on all the big popular YouTubers. I don't know them all, but he was there, and he was like dressed up as some mascot for an energy drink or something like that. And he took a bump, and so another celebrity involvement there. But it was a really good match. It was a really entertaining, high flying, hard hitting match, and I appreciated that, and a lot of kickouts from both of them. Neither one could put the other away, and I appreciated that. So they were pulling out all the stops, and as it should be on WrestleMania. That's one nitpick that I have with other promotions that give you pay-per-view quality matches on their free weekly TV every single week, and then when it comes time to do a pay-per-view, you either have to just duplicate that performance, which then it's like, well, why am I paying for this? Because I see this on TV every week. Or you have to even go above and beyond that. So you're always setting the bar like way up here. And then you're running the risk of fatiguing your fans because your shows are so long, or you're adding further health risks to your talent. And that's something that, whether you're a fan of one brand or another, I like wrestling. I like all wrestling. If it's good wrestling, it's good stories, I'm a fan. So I like it all. But that's something that WWE just does better than anybody else, honestly. They have been doing this longer than anybody, on a larger stage than anybody. They have the experience, they have the staff, they have the knowledge and the know-how, but you save your bigger moments for bigger shows, right? So occasionally you can throw in those pay-per-view main event quality matches on your free TV here and there, but don't do them every week. And then when you get to a show like WrestleMania, you got to punch that up, but you still got to keep everybody safe. So it's an escalation thing, and you want to give exciting content, but there's a way to give that exciting content and throw in all kinds of combos and moves and all kinds of crazy stuff without going so over the top that you have to keep leveling it up every time you're performing. I just think there's a better way to do that, and I wish some other promotions would learn that. Anyway, little tangent, little rant there. I apologize for that. And I love the other brands. Okay, I love AEW. But anyway, moving on. So yeah, I mean, WrestleMania is the place, though, that the stakes are so high that you want it to feel like, okay, they can't lose. They have to keep kicking out. You have to do your finisher 5 times, or you're not going to beat them. It has to be like that. It has to be that championship game. You know, you may perform well in your games leading up to it, but when it comes to that championship and everything is on the line, you throw everything into it and you forget your limitations. You have to rise above them. And that's what you want a pay-per-view like WrestleMania to be. You want everybody to rise above their usual limitations, because they're living to fight another day every other day. But on WrestleMania, they're fighting for everything. And that's how it should be at a big pay-per-view, and smaller scale on the smaller pay-per-views. And I think WWE does a really good job of that, especially with WrestleMania. And this WrestleMania in particular, I said I would talk about the matches I really liked, the matches I didn't love. The only match really that was like, okay, it's there, was Miz and Pat McAfee. And that was really just for fun. It was kind of an interlude. It was kind of uh, it was, again, the escalation thing. It was bringing you back down, giving you a little fun moment before we bring you back up for that Rhea Flair match. And I think that's a really good way to do it, because you're doing that little seesaw waves kind of thing where you take them up and then you bring them back down. And you take them up and you bring them back down. You take them up, 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 and that's how you do it. And that's the way to build that anticipation and build that excitement, build that energy. And this night did that really well, I thought. So you start off with like a solid match with John Cena and Austin Theory. Then you punch it up a little bit with 4 tag teams running all over the place. Following that, you have a match with 6 women that represent the past, present, and future of WWE. And so you're getting a little bit of everything. You're getting fans of every age invested. You got Lita and Trish for the older fans. You've got Becky and Bailey for the present fans, and the ones that are NXT fans excited for these other superstars to come up and to eventually get to that level. You have Io Sky and Dakota Kai in there, so you have something for everybody. And you have tag team wrestling, which is always going to have a more stuff going on because you got more people involved, a little bit more active. You got tags back and forth and everything. And then there's the tension that was built into this. So yeah, you had a little bit of tension in that first match because Austin Theory had to prove himself, but it wasn't really a long-term story. It was a very short storyline, not a whole lot of emotions involved in that. Then you had the tag team showcase, there was no emotion involved. It was just tag teams fighting to show off their skills. And now you get into, okay, there's a little bit of story here, so let's get into that. Let's dig into that. And that played out really well. And then you go from there. I'm trying to remember what the next match was after the women. I think it was oh man, I can't remember. Was it the Mysterio match? So then it might have been the Mysterio match. So then you're digging really deep into the emotional stuff. And I did want to kind of talk about the overall Judgment Day. Now we saw most of Judgment Day tonight. We'll see Finn Balor fight Edge tomorrow, and there's rumors that the Brood is going to be involved, and Christian's even on loan from AEW, and that could be exciting. And then you're going to have Brood and Judgment Day going on. That would be fun. I really hope that there's some truth to those rumors, because that would be fun to see, especially with the demon version of Finn coming into play. So with Dom and Ray, I remember when they were tagging up, and everybody was like, oh, Dom, let Dom turn on Ray. Let Dom turn on Ray. And then he turned, and everybody just booed him out the building. It was like he wasn't great on the mic, but slowly but surely he is built and built and built and improved and improved and improved to the point where you don't just boo him to boo him. You love to boo him. He's pushing all the buttons. He's pulling all the strings, and he's doing really well. And always getting in Ray's face and just taunting him over and over again, and then pulling the family into it, who were there on screen during the pandemic, but you didn't see him too much after that, in a couple of segments here and there. But then you pull them into this and get them involved, and especially tonight, where he actually threw, or not tonight, but was it tonight that he threw the drink? Yeah, I think it was tonight that he threw the drink in his sister's face and all that. Yeah, and you're just adding more and more layers to Dominic Mysterio and making him into his own person a little bit. And I appreciate that. Yeah, the gel stuff is silly, goofy. He comes off like this delusional, rich kid kind of vibe at first, but as he's grown and he's got comfortable in the role, I think his mic work has gotten a little bit stronger. He's he's pulling something. He's pulling from something, these emotions, and he's digging them out, and he's making an impact now. And it's gotten better and better. And I think being around uh, Rhea and even Finn and Damian, it's kind of helped him, pull out a little bit and kind of do his own thing and find himself a little bit more than he could just being, Rey Mysterio's son and tagging with him. And hopefully, it leads to good things for Dom in the future. The overall Judgment Day thing, I've had a problem with it since day one. Even when Edge was a part of it, it didn't grab me. It wasn't Edge's reason for forming the group was very thin. It didn't come across, I think, like he intended it to. And then when they shifted away from that and brought Finn into that place, Finn Balor, for me, has never been great on the mic. And he's still not. When he's doing the demon stuff, he's better because he's pulling from that supernatural element and that darker side. But when he's just talking, and the material that the Judgment Day has, it never comes across as intimidating or threatening. It just comes off as cheesy, except for when Rhea's on the mic. When Rhea's on the mic, it's powerful, it's intimidating, it's strong, and it's why Rhea is kind of this standout star of the group, and why she's now a women's champion, and the rest are kind of holding that middle ground. So for whatever reason, the Judgment Day has never really resonated with me. But looking at the overall storyline and where it is taken, specifically Rhea and Dom, but even Finn, in their careers and on this certain path, you can start to see what it's actually done for all of them. And it's kind of the same concept if you're into those into the for lack of a better term, talent shows like American Idol, The Voice, X Factor, etc. Sometimes, like especially in X Factor, you would see everybody's coming in as an individual talent. They're wanting to break big as a solo artist. But sometimes those judges would take some that had some promise but didn't quite have it together and put them in a group and see what they can do with that. And then they form a group. Ultimately, they always break up, and some standouts go on to have great solo careers. Camila Cabello is a perfect example of that. And I think it's a similar concept when you put somebody in a faction in a wrestling promotion. Randy Orton in Evolution is a great example of that. So when you take these four that you didn't really have, aside from Dom, who was teaming with Ray, you didn't really have a whole lot for any of them. Rhea had, stumbled around and okay, she's a tag team wrestler. Okay, she's solo. Okay, she's a tag team wrestler. You didn't really know what you were doing with her, and she was still putting it all together. Damian Priest was still filling his way on the main roster. Finn Balor had been sent back to NXT and come back up, and then Dom. This whole thing with Ray was ultimately, pull him out and put him in this group too. So now you have this group of four people that are all really talented in the ring, all very skilled, but none of them have that one thing that's just going to make them stand out. And I think the one thing that the Judgment Day faction did for all four of them was, well, at least three of them. I don't think Damian Priest is quite there yet, but the rest of them, it has done something for them, and it's enabled them to kind of oddly come out of the shadows and stand in the spotlight, which is an interesting thing because in a group, factions like this, typically speaking, there's like one, maybe two standouts, and then your supporting characters. You look at the Four Horsemen, you had Ric Flair, and then you had everybody else supporting him until you put Luger in there, and then you have Ric Flair and Luger and the rest. And not saying anything about the rest's wrestling skills, and Arn Anderson was brilliant on the mic, but Did he ever become a world champion? Did he ever become this known household name? No. It's just kind of the way the factions typically go. Some stand out, and that's again in the music comparison. That's why they put them in those groups and those shows to see who's going to stand out. Like in Hollywood Week on American Idol, they'll put them together in a group to do a group performance to see who's going to shine, to see who they're going to pull in to put through to the next round. It's kind of a proving ground thing. You find yourself in these groups, and either you stand out or you falter. And so far, Rhea and Dom, I think, have really come out. And Finn, he's always been a star. He's just, I don't know what there is. There's some disconnect, especially when he gets on the mic, that just doesn't click, and it doesn't send him to that next level. Yes, he's been a Universal Champion technically, but yes, in NXT, he's a different person. If he was the guy in NXT in WWE that he's in NXT, it might be a different story. But sometimes you can be a person in one brand and you can't transition to that, especially when it comes to NXT and the main roster. It's different audience, it's a wider audience, and they're not always as accepting to certain storylines or certain characters, and so it's harder to get over in that way. So hopefully, this battle with Edge can kind of remind people who Finn Balor is. We'll see how that goes tomorrow, but so far it's done really good things for Rhea and Dom specifically. Dom had a really good match with Ray. LWO got involved. Bad Bunny got involved. Aaliyah and Angie got involved as well. Finn and Damian, so it was a whole family affair. Got to speak to Ray's mask. He talked about it in the press conference that somebody that works on the Marvel movies did the mask, and it's funny because as soon as he came out, I was like, "Well, that mask looks different. It almost looks like a Daredevil mask or something like you could see in a Marvel movie." I literally said that out loud as I'm watching it, and I had no idea about this, so it was kind of cool to find out that it actually was somebody that worked on the costumes for the Marvel universe. So that was pretty cool to learn. So I appreciate that. And he looked great. Dom came out in a Rey Mysterio mask, which was really cool too. Also the Eddie homage is here. Dom showing tribute with some of his moves. Eddie coming out in the car into the "We Lie, We Cheat, We Steal" music with Snoop Dogg. That was really cool. And it was in California. The Mysterios are from San Diego, so that's it all clicked. It was great. It was fun. And then Rhea. Like I said, the two matches of the night for me was the SmackDown Women's Championship match and the Tag Team Championship match. Rhea and Charlotte. The beautiful thing about these two is these two women are physically on a different level. They are both tall, impressive, strong, athletic women with distinct standout personalities, but completely different sides of that coin, right? Both of them are powerful. They're strong. They're both very athletic, have great stamina, have great skills. They have technical skills. They have strength game. They have submission game. They have aerial game. They're both completely well-rounded. Now, granted, Rhea leans into the strength game a little bit more, and Charlotte leans into the athletic, the acrobatic a little bit more, but they meet in the middle, and their personalities are so different that they would naturally clash. Like just out in society, these two would clash. And so it's a perfect pairing. This could be like Rhea's ultimate nemesis, Charlotte Flair. This could be, she could be Sting to Charlotte's Rick. I really could see that. I really could see that happening. It would be interesting to see that continue forward. But Rhea, not saying Rhea is ever going to be like a big baby face like Sting was. She's so good in this role. And it took her a while. You know, if you go back to her very first appearance in NXT and then her second when she I think she was in the Mae Young Classic, and then she lost, and then she came back and she had transformed herself, and she's gotten more and more comfortable with who she is and put that together. And she talked about this in the press conference too, how she's matured mentally and physically over the past 3 years. And I think she had all these parts to her game and to her personality and to her character and to every part of her in the ring, and she just needed to put them together. And now she's put them together, and it took her to a championship match at WrestleMania, which she won, and now she is your SmackDown Women's Champion. And these two, no, well, actually, pun intended, this match was brutal, and they put each other through the paces. And the great thing about them being so well rounded is that they complement each other really well in the ring. And they could just kind of go all out against each other, and they did not pull punches. And both of them took some bumps, and especially Charlotte. Charlotte took some wicked bumps in this match. And talking about those bumps, there were 3 in particular that were to her face, and one where she landed completely on her face without any bracing of her arms and just face first. And I mean, she could have broke her nose. I mean, it was like she face planted hard and it looked sick. I mean, it was brutal. And I mean, these two were just so good. They were so good at every turn in this match. This match was hard hitting. It had the ups and downs. And the interesting thing is, the Judgment Day is a heel faction. Rhea Ripley came into this match as the heel. Charlotte Flair was the face. She was the good guy. You know, Rhea was the bad guy, girl, woman. But those classic where they're punching each other and the crowds going yay and boo, they were yaying Rhea Ripley and booing Charlotte Flair. And that's how over Rhea is. She is a heel who is getting cheered as a babyface. And it's that kind of reaction that made Becky Lynch the man, right? Rhea Ripley is right now on the top of her game, and the sky's the limit. And I think she's going to go far. And now she's your champ. And I can't wait to see what happens next with Rhea Ripley. I'm a big Rhea Ripley fan. I think she's really fun to watch. She's really fun to hear talk. She's different. She's unique. And yeah, big things for Rhea Ripley going forward. So the other match of the night, obviously, was the tag team title match, which was the longest storyline going into WrestleMania. That's going to bleed over. I'm assuming the main event of night 2 is going to be Roman and Cody. So you have the bloodline storyline bleeding into both main events of both nights of WrestleMania, as it should be, because this is a nearly 3-year-long storyline built up for Roman Reigns and the Usos and Solo and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Yes, Cody is new to this story, but he has his own story that hopefully he'll finish tomorrow night. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But Sami Zayn, and last pay-per-view, Triple H compared certain aspects of Sami Zayn with Mick Foley. And I actually see that too. I think everybody does. There are certain aspects of Sami Zayn that feel very Mick Foley-ish. And it's kind of that underdog vibe that kind of, when you look at Sami Zayn, you don't see world champion, you don't see big star, but for some reason, some inexplicable, undefinable quality, it still exists and it's reality, and you can feel it if you can't see it. And it's that kind of thing. It's just something that Sami has that he's finally tapped into that has clicked with the wider WWE universe. And it took a long time for Sami to get over in my heart. I wasn't a big Sami Zayn fan. I loved Kevin Owens from the first time I saw him, right? He just had it. And I think he should have done more than he's been able to do up to this point. But his battles with Roman Reigns have gone back to the very beginning of the bloodline. So it was really cool to have him in this story. But for Sami Zayn, whose involvement has been building over the past year, his before that he was just annoying to me. By design, he was supposed to be an annoying character. And even at the beginning of this, I was like, "Oh, Sami Zayn," but he won me over. He won me over just like he won the entire WWE universe over. And this whole journey of him eventually realizing that what Roman Reigns is actually doing, that he's not one to be looked up to, he's one to be taken down a notch, was a really well told story. And for Sami Zayn, it culminated with winning the World Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania on night one with his 20-year friend that is like a brother, Kevin Owens. And they talked about that journey in PWG and her PGW. I always get that backwards. Anyway, in LA, and how it's full circle to LA and coming up in Canada and all of that, and their respective histories with each other and with the bloodline and all of that stuff, and all of that story played out on the screen for us to see, beautifully told. And hopefully this leads to more of long-term storytelling in WWE, which is something they got away from for a long time. It used to be a big part of wrestling. Macho Man and Hulk Hogan was several years of story. People don't remember that, I don't think. That like their story really started like after WrestleMania 3 and built all the way until after WrestleMania 5. So it was a multiple year long arc where they were kind of in each other's radar, then friends and tag team partners, then enemies, and then, mutual respect and kind of part and do their own thing kind of thing. But ultimately their paths would cross for years and years, and that history would continue to build up wherever they went, whatever they did. They would always be linked together. And it's that kind of thing that I think defines people. Stone Cold and The Rock are two others that it's a long-term story that you have this connection with these two guys that always end up coming back to each other. And it's that kind of storytelling that invests people in wrestling. I know some people are fans of just, give me the action. I don't care about story. I'm not one of those. I think you need story, or I don't care about the action. It could be a really good match. It could be exciting. I could have fun watching it. But if you add just even a little bit of story in there, I'm more invested. When I'm watching AEW and I watch the Elite and I watch the stories that involve Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega unfold, and how that weaves in and out of different feuds and matches that they have, and this long-term story that they've been telling with the Elite, that's when I'm invested. And that's when I want to watch. And that's when I get excited. When I'm watching the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers for the 20th time, yeah, it's exciting. It's fun. It's, action out the wazoo, and I'm left exhausted at the end. But do I really care? I don't know, because there's not story there. You know what I'm saying? So I think you need story to make these feuds mean something. And the Bloodline story is the best story that WWE has told in a long time. And again, it came to fruition in this tag team match, which was a really good match, by the way. A lot of back and forth, a lot of confrontation between Jay and Sami specifically. And ultimately, Sami would get the pin on Jay, using each other's moves, that kind of thing, really trying to get into each other's heads. The underdog heroic struggle to come up from underneath and fell the champs, that the longest reigning champs that were undefeated and seemingly unbeatable. And you're feeding into a similar story. You're planting the seeds. Okay, if Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens can do it, maybe Cody Rhodes can tomorrow night too. And so you're building that anticipation. It's just a beautiful story throughout. And it was a great way to cap off night one of WrestleMania and get that anticipation building for the Cody Roman match for night two. So great stuff. Fantastic night. I think if night two is as good as night one was from top to bottom, the flow, the storytelling, the escalation, the celebrity involvement, the segments, everything, every aspect of it, if it's as good as night one was, and then you have this killer main event with Roman and Cody, I think this could go down as one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time, because based on night one alone, this was a near perfect card. This was a near perfect WrestleMania for me. Missing those other matches, like if you're comparing it to a one night WrestleMania, obviously it's missing something because it doesn't have that world championship. It doesn't have that biggest prize and some key matches like Edge and Finn, to throw in there as well, Bianca and Asuka. So you're missing those key matches. But if you take both nights and combine them, and tomorrow night is as good, I would put this WrestleMania up against any WrestleMania in the history of WrestleMania. It's that good. And I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm happy. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. I want to see if Cody finishes the story, or if this once in an era reign of Roman Reigns continues, because we haven't seen a long-standing champion like this in a very long time. I can't even remember the last time we had a champion hold the title this long. We've seen long reigns. I think Triple H held it for a long time. Maybe Stone Cold and The Rock had, but they were always trading it. It was always going back and forth in those days. The Attitude Era, the competition was just so stiff. You couldn't keep it on one person all the time. But we haven't really seen reigns like this, no pun intended, since like the era of Hulk Hogan and before that, Ric Flair. This reign is like those, and it makes it mean something. It makes it more important. It makes it a bigger prize. And I hope we continue to see more of that, and find other ways to make other wrestlers stand out without having to have that world championship. Go the Roddy Piper route. Never held a world title. One of the biggest legends in wrestling history. So let's do that and make more of these. Make these titles mean something again. So Cody Rhodes, I'm a big fan. I was a fan of Cody Rhodes in the face mask, broken, shattered. That's what it was called. Shattered Cody Rhodes version. When he was doing that role, I saw the potential to be world champion. I know a lot of us did back then. And then for whatever reason, that didn't work out. He got saddled with Stardust. Then when AEW came around, you saw that star power. I don't care. Yeah, people got disillusioned with him because I don't know why. Honestly, I didn't understand the hate and the boos for Cody Rhodes in AEW. But whatever the case may be, it led to him being cheered immensely in WWE. And now he is here in the main event of WrestleMania, fighting for the Universal World Championship against the longest reigning champion in an era. And That's huge. And the first roads to main event WrestleMania at that. So it's a big honor, and I want to see Cody finish the story. I love Roman Reigns. I think he's been great. This whole bloodline storyline has been really good, the best storyline in wrestling in a long time. But it's time for Cody to finish the story. Will he? We'll see. But that's my thoughts on night one. I will come back and share my thoughts on night two. I think this podcast went okay. I'm happy with this. I think I'm going to post this. So, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed the way that I handled this, how I'm just talking about stuff that I enjoyed, talking about my thoughts on it, breaking it down a little bit, having fun with it, being more relaxed, more conversational. And taking some of the pressure off and not just be like, okay, I got to figure out, I got to talk about this match. I got to tell all the matches. You know the matches, you watched it. And if you didn't, you can look up and see all the matches. I think I actually covered them all, just not in a, okay, this match and this match and this match and this is who won and that and yada, yada. I don't think I even mentioned who won every single match. So I like it this way better. Hopefully you do too. Hopefully we can connect on that level and have some fun as this podcast moves forward. So we'll see. But I'll be back with a similar episode for night two, and we'll see how that one goes. So fingers crossed that we have another great show. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about night one of WrestleMania, what you thought about this podcast, and if you're a fan of the way this is going, if you're a fan of the way WWE is going, if you're a Bloodline fan, a Cody fan, who do you want to win? Let me know, and join me next time for a new episode. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe and notification bell. Don't miss any of the content. Follow me on social media, and come back for more episodes of the Allcast. Until next time, thanks for watching. Keep watching wrestling, have fun, and enjoy WrestleMania Night 2.